Ed Harris Life Cycle of Weed, Part 3. We're going to be talking about the actual life cycle part, kind of just laying down a foundation. A little bit of what we have been covering has not just do with the weed, but the soil. Now, all of us, we were created from the soil. At least that's the biblical account. If you believe the Bible says that God breathed into man the breath of life, and men became living souls. And nephesh is the word in Hebrew. And so you can see that there are multiple layers of this teaching and how we could go in different directions, talking about not just the weeds that are in the soil, but the soil itself and how a man is constituted as soil. That's one of the parables for men, is a man of the earth or a man of soil. And so we're talking about soil, and if you constitute soil, if you and I do today, then what's in our soil? You know, obviously this parable could go bigger and wider as we're talking about the soil, but is there weeds actually in our soil? That begs the question, and we have to ask this question. We got to ask it. We got to ask this right now. Who put the soil? Who made the soil? Yahweh. Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Lord God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He created the soil, and he made us from the dirt of the ground, from the soil of the dust of the ground, from the dust. So he breathes into this dust, and now we're living organisms, human beings, if you would. Now, these human beings have weeds in us. Us as soil, we got these weeds in us, right? And so we got good stuff in us, and then we got weeds in us. The good stuff, the rabbis would call the Yetzer Tov, the good thing, the good inclination, the good desire. The evil stuff in us, it's the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. And so there's that evil thing in us, there's a good thing in us. And so what do we do when we see that we have evil things? Well, I told you last week in last week's series that we were going to, in last week's segment of the series, where we're going to go in and talk about what happens when you actually just take a weed. You see you have a weed in your grass, or if you got a weed in your soil, you take that shovel. So I brought on the set this little spade, this little shovel that I've used this a few times in the yard. And here's what happens when you use a shovel to get your soil right. Here's what happens when you use a shovel, a spade, to get your weeds out. Now, who would go through all that trouble? Well, we do. What does that leave us with? That leaves us with holes in our ground. And without proper soil to replace it, without proper cultivation to get that soil back up to the same pH level where it'll go ahead and produce life, you got a hole in the ground. And what do people do with holes in the ground? We tend to trip over them. In fact, when I was preparing to do this talk with you all and do this series, my sons and I, we play in the yard a lot. And I dug up a lot of weeds for as I was developing spiritually these ideas, thoughts, and wanted to make this simple but yet impactful. My sons went out, we were going to throw the football, and they said, hey man, watch out for those holes. And that's exactly what happens in our lives. And I want you to think about the times in your life, not only when you've tried to just completely eradicate something in the wrong way, not truly giving it to Yahweh, but what about the holes that you leave when you try to remove the weed from other people's lives or weeds from other situations? How's it working out for you? Here's an example of how you would just want to remove a weed. Get rid of him. Oh, I'm not talking to them anymore. Oh, those kind of people, we don't deal with those type of people. Not those. That's not helping you. That leaves a hole in your life. And you think no matter how evil someone might be or how vindictive they might be, that you can just uproot them and throw them somewhere. Not so. Not so. And let me tell you, if you're only focused on that, and I'm kind of hedging because next week we're going to talk about the power of focusing on weeds. the power of focusing on weeds. But now I just want you to think about, you got your eye on this weed, you're going to get it out, so you get out something that looks like this. What does this look like in the spiritual? What does something like this look like in the spiritual? I want to know, what are you doing? What are you actually up to? You mean that's the way we handle problems in life? We take up this and we try to do that, and we leave holes everywhere. How can you walk if there are these holes everywhere? For this, for a few mangy plants. Focusing on the uncultivated plant. Hey, I hope that your life is not just based on focusing on uncultivated plants. Let our lives not be about that. Let our lives be about focusing on the true vine.